Welcome, everybody. This is Chris Winn, Winn's World Podcast Excellent. I am hosting Ink Talks tonight on Winn's World Podcast Excellent. And we have with us again tonight, Mario Barth, and we have Sean Anderson from Dragonlad Tattoo, Aaron Bell from Slave to the Needle, Jeremy Corns from Anchored Art, and Chris Winn from Anchored Art and The World. So anyways, Mario, why don't you start us off by recapping a little bit of what we talked about the other day?
Thanks, Chris. First of all, thanks for having this today. You know, I think it's going to be a really important part that we can talk as a community about what goes on. You know, the biggest challenge we have is that Europe, with Etch and Reach, basically implemented a new law that blue and green pigment, blue 15, green 7, will be banned for sure. And we have a 2-year grace period, which means that all blue and green has to be removed with 2023, and with starting 2022 is not allowed to be in manufacturing in the European Union. The biggest challenge, what we really arise on this whole situation, is that it will transfer to the United States, regardless what anybody thinks, because the FDA is in conjunction. The world became very small, and we really have I think a barrier there, right? We have almost like a tank barrier currently, because it's grounded into the floor and it's bolted in, and now we try to move it, right? And that's really the situation. So it's great to have you guys here.
And you know, as one of the reasons I wanted to have Sean Anderson on here, and Sean, why don't you qualify a little bit of why I have you on here and what you've done over your time in the tattoo business with APT and all that stuff. Why don't you do that?
Because he's a good-looking guy. That's the reason why he's on.
He loves Megadeth.
By the way, first.
Now we know Mario was full of shit, right? My name is Sean Anderson. I've been tattooing for 34 years, learned under Scott Sterling and Sailor Moses, worked with Julie Moon a couple of years. I'm here primarily as a representative of the Alliance of Professional Tattooists, which was incorporated in 1992. I'm the 107th member of that organization. I have served, I'm in my 12th year on the board of directors. I spent 10 years originally, 4 years as president, and now with the death of Mike Martin, our friend, a couple of years ago, a few of us older schoolers got back onto the board, and I've been a member since the inception of the organization. And APT has been watching the situation for, quite frankly, decades, and really now is when it's really become serious in the last 10 years or so. But with the things that are happening in Europe now, this is really the first time that we've seen something this extreme. And
Sean, let's talk a little bit about kind of pinpoint on what you said earlier. We have been fighting this for decades. So this is not just a new thing that's been going on. Explain how long it's been going on and what you've gone through to combat this.
Well, quite frankly, you know, in the earlier years, and even to this day, I don't quite think that the authorities know what to do with us, because traditionally there has been a severe lack of issues, right? Astronomically rare issues with this, and they don't quite understand tattooing, how it functions, how it sits in the skin, how it is absorbed by the body, and they don't really know what to do with this, but they've been watching very closely. And in fact, the last time that I checked the FDA website, they say we have not exercised our regulatory authority over these pigments because of historical lack of issues with these pigments. I haven't checked in the last couple of weeks, but that may still in fact be on that site. We noticed at APT probably, 4 or 5 years ago that they were taking a much more active stance as it had to do with tattoo pigments, and they started allegedly breaking them down. I think his name was Dr. Paul Howard out of Kansas, and they started watching us. And the few issues that tattooists have, they have taken action. It's basically they've been kind of watching what's going on. And when something happens, a rare occurrence, if there's a mistake in the manufacturing process, they do recall efforts, with those pigments. And now that has transformed a bit further, especially with the emergence of the Collins-Feinstein bill, I think it's 726, that was defeated in committee, I believe, last year or the year before. Mario may be able to be more specific with that, but that bill is a very, very serious thing, and will force the FDA's hand to act more aggressively in the oversight of these pigments. So what the APT has done, since the beginning, is we've monitored the problem. We've all known that really it was the old schoolers that figured these pigments out, and now the regulatory oversight powers that be are starting to notice us because we're noticeable now. Back in the day, we were just something that happened, in the back alleyway. No, hear no evil, see no evil. Now we're on TV, and we're all over the internet, and there's hundreds of thousands of tattooers worldwide, and they don't quite know what to do with us. And so it really started moving quickly about 5 years ago, and really in the last 2 years. Now, these new developments in Europe really brought it to the forefront, and it could go a bunch of different ways. And so what APT has done has worked with everybody we know with. AFDO, the Association of Food and Drug Officials, CTS, anybody, because generally tattooers are scattered. We're like herding cats. We generally are not real good about getting together and forming large groups of people that are able to fight off major corporations and governmental agencies. We do the best we can, but we're still too small. We're too fractured. We need to find a way to work together, even with people that we traditionally wouldn't work together with, to try to find ways to find a solution. It's almost become, in my personal opinion, this is not the opinion of APT, it's almost a solution trying to find a problem. That's the way I see it. And if you ask a lot of these government officials and point blank ask them, so what is the problem? Why the urgency, especially in Europe? It almost is like a knee jerk. We're going to ban it to find out if we can prove that it's bad. I've got a study sitting to my right hand right here that was animal testing on banned pigments. I don't know what color they were. They were red and black. And the study actually shows that the red and black that was banned does not cause cancer, and there's lots of studies like that out there, published and unpublished. So where APT is trying to go is trying to find ways to work with people to fix the problem without ending up where Europe is right now. And anybody that I've heard a lot of people not believe that this is real, and all they need to do, we're all on Instagram, or call a friend out in Europe, or talk to Henning Jorgensen and see what they have to say about what's happening in Europe right now. And that's what we're looking at here. I believe that we need to try to find a way to work with these people and figure out a way that they don't feel the need to ban us out of business. One of the biggest problems of the blue and the green is the pigment load. That's the key. I have been told that they are going to be requiring a pigment load of 0.01%. And I have not read that verbiage. Mario may have, but if you, I believe, I haven't pulled out my calculator, but that's about 700 times thinner than what we're currently using. Absolutely unusable. That's like watered down watercolors, and it's not going to stay in the skin. So that's where APT is at, and that's what we're trying to do.
I'm going to ask you, Aaron, a question right now. As somebody who's been tattooing, and introduce yourself and say, tell how long you've been tattooing and all that stuff. But as a tattooer and a color tattooer, you've watched the inks over the years get better and better and better. What are your feelings on the inks that you're using then to the inks that you're using now?
Well, I'm using the micro dispersed pigments now. I started with the powdered inks. Wait, let me back up. I'm Aaron Bell. I've been tattooing professionally for 30 years, and I'm here because I just got like everybody else, man. I feel just blindsided by this. I saw it hitting Jorgensen's post about it getting banned in Europe, and so I tried to catch up today. I watched your conversation with Mario. Good to see you again, Mario. Long time. And so yeah. I mean, I'm happy and content with the array of wonderful colors that I have now. So the thought, taking away the blue and the green really gets me thinking. Well, then that's no good. And I don't know, part of me says, that would never happen here in the US, but I do understand, like Sean said, I know that FDA and the UN, I know if it happened in Europe, it's a pretty powerful blow to us too. And I think we would do well to pay attention. And like Mario said in your guys' conversation, it's better to be proactive rather than reactive. So I'm here to learn, to find out what I can do, what we all can do, and let's do it. And
Good. And I appreciate that, man. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all you being here. Jeremy Corns, as I know you've been tattooing, and I want you to introduce yourself and say how long you've been tattooing, but you do primarily color realism. What would this band effectively do to your tattooing because of the fact that blue, green, yellow's on the chopping block, red's on the chopping block, it's coming down? And just say a little bit about that, and then we'll jump over to Mario. Jeremy.
So my name is Jeremy Corns. I've been tattooing for 17 years, and from starting out until now, I mean, from the first time that I put like Bahama blue in the skin, and saw that bright, bold strike of color, it's been something that's ongoing to, research into contrasting and color theory and stuff to make tattoos bolder and brighter and make them stay for the long haul in the tattoo, with, like you guys just said, the blue and green wouldn't be the only color affected. It's everybody knows that those colors go into many, many other colors that would be off the market as well. You'd be left with, I think, I heard, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was like, 80% of colors at least would be affected by that. To build a proper tattoo that's going to last for years in the skin, you have to use contrast, and you have to, build a everlasting tattoo. If you took away those colors that you mix into your palette to create heavier contrast, which oftentimes are, things on the darker reds and darker purples and darker blues and greens, that add that power to a tattoo to stay, obviously that's going to majorly affect tattooing across the board, not just for color realism, but for all styles of tattooing. I just finished a Japanese sleeve yesterday, and I was trying to think that, if you took certain colors away from that, what would it look like, and it's like, well, I'd rather just do it in black and gray probably, instead of even starting with color, because it affects it that much. With color realism, obviously the wide array of color plays a massive part in, again, the life of the tattoo, so this is something that is very real. It's very, very concerning, and it is something that, we just have to find a starting point to start getting the correct information into clients' hands, and figure out a way to inform people with real information, in a way that that clients understand as well what is going to happen to their tattoos and their bodies as well. So I think, I'm just here to speak on behalf of the daily tattooer, I guess you could say. And I have nowhere near the time in the game that you guys do, but I do pay very close attention to the way that healed tattoos come back and things. And obviously, like Sean just said, with new healing techniques and things, I definitely have been so impressed over the last couple of years with the saturation in the skin now, and the way that tattoos hold just so beautifully from wall to wall with color as a whole, with no colors lacking anywhere. It's not like there's, the warmer colors are weaker, the colder colors are weaker. Now all the ink is great. So if you affected, that huge cold color scheme, then obviously that is something that would not only affect color realism, but it would affect everyone all the way across the board forever. So
True. Very true. Very true. Very true. Thank you. And Mario, let's talk a little bit about what we talked about the other day, with the fact that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The ink is just the tip of the iceberg. This will affect all of our supplies across the board. And talk a little bit about that, would you, Mario?
Yeah, so I think we really have to, especially in this discussion and conversation, right? And for Aaron and Jeremy, it's like, because it seems like you didn't get the information transferred to you over the past years, right? So I think we have several issues before I get into your question.
Okay, go ahead.
And I think Sean hit the nail on the head, right? This is an ongoing situation. It's a shock and awe situation where it basically is really, and I don't say this lightly, the industry's fault, right? Because what happened was, it's like, there was a big sentence said, it's like the industry did not provide the willingness to bring safety data to the table to prove that it's safe. And that was going on over years. So this is not something that was going, it's just like let's say the last 2 years. This was going on since its first time. It was started in 2005 in Switzerland by a specific color company, as I mentioned last time. And then it got put into effect in 2008 with the first RESUP resolution, 2008, where the color have been analyzed for kind of ingredients and what the impurity character should be. There had been absolutely no data for anybody to say what pigments were good or were not good, right? So what really the point happened here is like, and we're not saying that they were great pigments, they were, for that time, those were the best pigments available, right? In many parts, some better than others. We chose the artist, spoke to other artists, right? The communication was better. We didn't have the cell phone shit, and we had to speak to each other from person to person. We had to ask each other, really, hey, what do you think about that? Do you like it? And so it was a different scenario. So the information highway traveled slower, which is interesting. Today, with all that information, many tattoo artists had no clue that this happens. So it's because everybody is more focused on their own promotion instead of really what goes on in the industry, right? So a very big part, I think, what's going to happen here is by them being able to make this pressure on the industry, and they're doing this already now with the cartridges, as we spoke about, for about 2.5 years. California is one of the biggest pusher, and we can't forget in about 2000, I believe it was around 2005 to 7, the Clean Water Act. I don't know if you guys, Sean will remember it. California tried to ban all pigments because they said it causes cancer and it shouldn't be allowed in. So it's not an unknown territory that the regulatory agencies will get a grip on our industry, because it has grown potentially, like dramatically, right? So they now say since 2 years, that the cartridges we use is an encapsulated needle, and the term what they're using it's injecting ink under the skin. And I have been fighting, and I'm a little bit a defender, or let's call it this way, not an aggressor, but I do not appreciate AFTO because of their underlying circumstances, because they keep referring to a pigment placement under the skin as an injection. It is not an injection, because it's a penetration in the deposit of the ink particle into the skin. And if we let that pass, you will not be able to use ever again a cartridge without a medical license. And then we are in a shit boat number 2. So it's a very tricky. I'm pretty sure Sean has heard this too already. There's many organizations out there which try to regulate, but one part we cannot forget: they are not part of the industry. And the problem is they categorize us into something what we are not. We are not a cosmetic industry. We are not. We are a very big industry. We are tattooers. We need permanent marking stains on our body in the safest possible way. And that's really what it is. And the main part, and you know, I've said this and screamed this, and I've told by our last conversation, in 2011, I made a presentation in Europe where I said this is an adult activity. We make a decision. We decide what goes in our body as long as it's safe, and we assume a certain kind of risk. And we have to do that. Otherwise, it will go. They have tried to ban black about 5 years ago. They have tried to ban titanium dioxide. They're working on it. They try to ban all brown tones because they say there's a nickel content in it. It's like even the nickel content is absolutely mind-blowing small for the most of them, because you can use them in cosmetic colors. And the interesting part is that when it becomes to that, they separate us from the cosmetic pigments. So they say like, oh, this is a different part because it's a micro pigmentation pigment. It's not a tattooing pigment. So we have this real gray area where everybody moves around, and they're going to categorize us into a medical field. And that's the problem that we're having. It's, I don't know how Sean feels about those situations. Aaron, I mean, I know you guys, you guys do great work. It's, we're not talking about your technique. We're not talking about what the artist should learn. We're not talking about hygiene. We need to stay focused what this is. It's a restriction of your freedom of expression, what you can use as to create that art. That's where we at. And the challenging part is that they say until in Europe especially, it's not in America yet, but it will come, until you can prove to us that it's 100% safe, we deem it unsafe. And that's where the challenge comes in. Well, because there is no such thing what's 100% safe. And to get to one little part, and then I'll shut up for a moment again, is what John said with the dilution of the colors. He's absolutely 100% correct in his calculation. Because what's going to happen is, again, as I told you last time, they basing a standard tattoo for 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. This is 18 by 18 inches. They assume that that's the standard size. And when you use one color and fill out that square, 18 by 18 inches, they assuming that that's a standard. And that's where they say it has to have these qualifications in this part. And for that part, you would have to dilute the color 700 times.
Sean?
I think that my understanding is the injected word, which we have objected to also. That is an FDA push. I don't believe that I've heard that that's AFTO's opinion. It's the FDA people that are saying injected.
No, it's absolutely AFTO. It's absolutely AFTO. We had the conversations in Vegas about them. They're very, very strict about it. They call it an injection because they think, and an injection, you have to have a hypodermic needle. If you have a hypodermic needle and you have an injective substance, you have to be a medical person to actually do it. That's the problem. Listen, they all do great stuff, right? But ultimately, Sean, I think it's going to lay on us. We need to really get together, sit down, quit the bullshit, create standards throughout the United States. Your APT is doing this for years, tries to not create them, but try to gather the information and present it to the people. I think that's why we tried the CTS like 2 years ago, right? Where we've tried to bring everybody in, get together until we get together and write qualified regulations, standards, and opinions, what we think should be deemed to be safe. They will go over it and we have nothing to say, unfortunately.
Well, action needs to happen. The action towards that end is where I think that we kind of get led astray and tend to disagree on things. But the time for our head in the sand is certainly over. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions on not only the pigment load, but pigment retention. This was my question when I spoke to the lawyers at the AESI, the American Environmental Safety Institute, for the original pigment lawsuits back in 2000. I can't remember, 5. You said it earlier.
It was about 5.
What, you know, they're utilizing. I believe they're confusing numbers because most of that, especially that portion, I understand, Prop 65. And all of that, that's daily consumption of chemicals over your lifetime. And they're counting that amount of pigment every single day for the rest of your life as a daily exposure. Not only that, I'm not so sure that anybody has quantified exactly how many micrograms of any said pigment stays in a healed tattoo. Most of it is wiped away or heal. It is exfoliated during the healing process. So, I mean, this is a multi-layered problem, right? We've decided to work with everybody we can find, mostly to monitor. For a good example, the AFDO was pushing sterile water, and we just changed their minds on that. They wanted sterile water in our rinse cups, the whole ball of wax. And we had a meeting and with John Mysock, and he changed his mind on that. I don't believe that we can leave any stone unturned when it comes to people agree or not agree with what they're trying to do or the way that they're doing it. If left unsupervised or unadvised, that can turn out badly. And that's the reason why we so far have taken that angle. Now, moving forward, things have to be different. We as an industry, or I prefer we as a trade, need to find a way to figure this out and protect ourselves from the situation that Europe is currently in. Now, do I think that is the direction that the FDA is going? I don't know if it's inevitable or not. From what I've seen of their actions over the past decade, it seems as though they may understand that there has not been an issue with tattoo pigment. Many doctors that I have spoken to understand that also. Can we get to a point where, like in Europe, they are saying you have to be 100% safe? That's impossible. 500 people a year die from eating peanuts. I mean, you cannot function in society or consume any product at any time and be assured of something not happening. The problem here lies is there are a group of regulators starting to realize how big tattooing is and how relatively unregulated.
I just have to jump out for a second.
Yep. Relatively unregulated parts of our group are, but I think that a lot of them understand that, man, millions of these things are going on every single day, and the flat out reality of it is people aren't showing up getting sick or having reactions. Does it happen? Yeah, but it's extraordinarily rare, and I think that is therein lies the problem. So where do we go from here? I think that we need to find a way to work together, even with people that we normally wouldn't, because if we don't, there are certainly interested parties right now that will do it for us. A lot of big, major billion-dollar corporations are eyeing up tattooing and have been for some time. companies that have nothing to do with tattooing. And then I think that the regulatory authorities, they're like, we don't know what to do. And in Europe, what they did is like, okay, fix it or you're done. And I believe everybody over there didn't believe it was coming, like a lot of people here do. And if we don't get together and start figuring it out, we're going to be in the same boat.
And you know,
So Sean, let me out. So what does action look like? I mean, I know most of us, I mean, for my career, I've spent a lot of energy fighting off legislation. Ultimately, we lost, as most states have. But I know a lot of tattooers, man. I just want to tattoo, you know, as many of us do. What does action look like? I mean, Mario mentioned we need legislation. What does that mean? I mean, would it be more practical to rally tattooers together to get a lobbyist? Or, I mean, what do you think? Where do we go from here?
Those things have happened and will happen and are currently happening. What does it look like? That's undetermined. We all realize, and in fact, APT's mantra, we are restricted by our bylaws to start legislation. But when when it's inevitable, it is our duty to seek that it is sane and enforceable. Right now, we're becoming of the opinion that it is in motion. It's already happening. Feinstein's bill is a good example of that. S 726. It's a long read, but if you want to get scared, go ahead and read that baby. Right now, it's dead. If it gets reintroduced, that's when it's going to be a problem. It have to be reintroduced, and it would have a different number. But that has to do with the color additive law and classification of pigments and all of that. I mean, this is a real deep rabbit hole. So where do we go from here? Number one, at minimum, organize, get together, join APT, join CTS, be there. I remember going to Germany back in 1993 saying, you guys need to organize, you guys need to do kind of what we're doing in the States and have an APT. And that was quite sternly rebuked. They were not interested in doing it. Now, we have, and the bottom line is, in the current state of the industry, are we capable of fending off regulatory authorities as powerful as the FDA or the House and Senate of the United States? Now, we're way too disorganized. We are easy targets because we refuse to take the time or spend the $80 to $150 a year to have your opinion counted and become a group of people that needs to be listened to. I mean, that's APT's been around for almost 30 years, so they know who we are and they tend to hear what we have to say. But I mean, if even 10% of tattooers were to join both organizations, any organizations, that's when they listen. They want to hear numbers, right? Right now, we don't have numbers and we're all separate. And generally what happens, and it happened all the time, especially when I was president, people would call, some legislation would be coming down in their state. Sean, what are you going to do about it? Can APT send somebody? And sometimes we have. On that director's own dime, because APT can't afford to send somebody to a legislature and lobby it. And my first question is, well, are you a member? No, but I've always wanted to be, right? And that's where I see tattooing right now. No, but I've always wanted to be.
Well, I could say no, but I have been for about 15 years, but I haven't been for many years. And, for me, like I said, I fought off legislation in this state, lost. And once we lost legislation and were required to do our annual bloodborne pathogens, at that time at least, the APT bloodborne pathogens wasn't accepted by my state. So do I want to take it twice? Not really. but that was a long time ago. I mean, if giving $100 a year or whatever the fee is to be counted and know that there is a force protecting the tattoo community from some kind of federal regulation, then that's a different story. I just, in my mind, I couldn't bring myself to justify being a member.
I understand, and don't please don't take offense. And I'm not promoting any individual organization. I'm merely promoting the gathering of tattooers to defend ourselves under whatever banner that may be. Numbers.
But do we think that this whole, at this point in time, that Mario and I talked about this, about the ink companies even coming together at the same table and talking about this problem, everybody disbanding at some point because this problem occurred with this person or this or this or this. How do we move forward with just a good direction and kind of unified tattooing and get the numbers and get the voices out there to where the tattooer, like Aaron said, it's going to pay $100 and they're going to be counted. Their voice is going to be heard. How do we do that? How do we get everybody on the same page is the question at this point, because we know this stuff's coming down the pipe. Dude, it's coming. It's here. It's been coming. How do we do this? Anybody?
It's not just paying the dues. It's being there. It's on a Friday night, being on a Zoom call with honored colleagues, discussing this and figuring a way to go forward. It's not just membership. It's people. It's tattooers being there and working on this problem. I mean, as simply as I mean, to give you, I've got stacks of these files. This is a very small portion of research of digging studies and reading them, hundreds of pages, just to try to be educated enough so that I can have an intelligent conversation when I come in contact with these people. It's not only being a part of something, it's being active in something and actively pursuing an outcome that's best for tattooing. Now, what is the best way to pursue that? We've tried a bunch of different ways, and we need to figure out a way that we can speak in a unified voice and keep at it. And are we going to be successful? I don't know. All I know is I'm going to do everything I can within my power to try to help, because it's worth it. And one of the reasons why I'm here is
Sean froze.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? That's.
Let me,
Go ahead, Mario. Go ahead.
Let me jump in, Aaron. To your question, I think it's a very good question. I'm also not a big believer that the money is the issue, right? Oh, he's back. Sean is back. Sorry, so I just jumped in because you were frozen for a little bit.
Was it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. It was just frozen a little bit, and if you want to continue, you can. Otherwise, I jumped in. I was just saying, I agree with Aaron. It's not, and you as well, Sean, because it's not the money issue, right? It's like you can drive a certain amount of money. The problem really, or the challenge, I like to call problems challenges, right? Because a challenge you want to have a solution for, a problem you don't want to deal with, right? So the real challenge what we have in is really, first of all, organizational issues, right? That bringing the groups together, unified, they get speakers which can go and communicate with the people who we have to communicate with in their own language, right? As long as and I make always this stupid like comparison, Mac and PC. I always say this, right? If you don't, they're both great computers. If you don't have a crossover program, they just don't fucking work. you know, and I think that's the same with us. And I agree with you, Sean. I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours reading. I mean, damn, I don't even speak English. Okay. So it's like, I mean, I had to learn like the academic language. I have to learn how to communicate with them and try to suppress the fuck word, you know, on when I speak with them somewhere. But I think that's the biggest challenge. And I think people like the APT and us with the CTS and any other willing organization, they have to put all the part aside. I think the first step should be that the heads of those organizations should meet. That's the first step. It's like if you have a meeting of the big five, right? That, like, I always make those comments, people don't understand it. You understand it. I come from a time where we did that. We should really meet in a place and really address where is the foundation to be built. I think we all have our strengths. I think the APT has its strengths. There's many other organizations, small or large, which have a great strength. We need to sit together and then create a media outreach platform to battle that. Because the main part is the artists need to be educated properly to understand what really goes on. Because the first reaction from the most tattoo artists, especially young ones, they say, oh, fuck it, I go in the underground. Okay, yeah, get it, you know? It's not that simple anymore, right? It's 2020. It's not 1980 where we can ride our Harley to a fucking bunker and tattoo. It doesn't work. It's so we need to form a committee of the people which should talk, not 100 voices, 5 voices, 6 voices, 10 voices, and they need to sit together, create a battle plan, and a public outreach program, first of all, for our own industry, that the information really gets to them. And then the secondary outreach to the end consumer, because that will be the person who's going to support. That's the person who's going to come in and put the money behind it to really be able to receive that tattoo with the colors what they want. One part, though, I would really address, it is not on AFDO or any other similar organization in Europe's responsibility to figure out what's safe for us. It is our responsibility to create data, research data, scientific data, and we can collect this together and say, this is the standard we need. This is the standard we look at, because nobody can deny that tattoo pigments in the past 5 years have been better than they have ever been, as long as they're manufactured by a professional company in some form of way. And I think there's about 10 out there which really create great products. It's really a preference at that moment, right? Of what you want to use, and the artist should have the choice what they want to use. So I think the first step would be a very aggressive move within the next 4 weeks, and I just throw this out on the plate. The people which are somewhere ahead of an organization should meet on a neutral place and have a dinner. I'm telling you that. At that moment, you can really start something, and then we can start relaying messages to other people. It doesn't help you to call out and say, we need $100 from every tattoo artist, because first of all, the most tattoo artists will not understand it, and the ones which understand it, they do it anyway already. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. But it's really the meeting of the minds, and the people which know how to speak, which can focus on the core. What is this about? It's not about my business, not about your business, it's about our lifestyle and our industry. And we are all long time in this life, and we obviously all live from it, and we had great fun with it, and we have met great friends with it and within it, and we married in it, right? So I think that's the responsibility we really should do. And I think that would be the greatest achievement in a long time, when those people could get together and have a neutral sit down and really see what goes on.
APTs.
What was that, Sean?
I said we're ready to work with just about everybody, because that's the way it has to happen. I think I think that right now things are happening so fast, and and pressure is coming from so many different organizations. It's hard to keep track of what's coming and when it's going to happen.
I
I
gotta
know.
say, I know, sorry to interrupt, John, but there's something that just, I mean, this sounds so obvious and so stupid, but they're still selling cigarettes in Europe, right?
Yep.
And Aaron, you're absolutely right, 100%. They also sell alcohol everywhere, but there's billions of dollars being pushed into the politics. And
Yeah.
somebody goes out in the politics and tries to ban cigarettes, and you have 30% of the population smoking cigarettes, and you live in a country like Germany with 80 million people, you now have 24 million people voting for the other party. And that's where the challenge lays.
Yeah.
When you have this with tattooing, it's unfortunately every tattooer is out for himself, and they're like, fuck,
Yeah.
it's not happening to me. I'm going the underground.
Didn't you say, Mario, 100 million Americans have tattoos or tattooed, or
Yeah, it's close to 100
significant
million.
amount of people?
Yeah, but that's the outreach. It's not the tattoo artists, right? It's the end consumer. So I mean, a strategy would be, first of all, have a meeting of a mind, put them together, make a battle plan. First battle plan, inform all the tattoo artists. They have to be informed correctly. They need to listen to it. They should get their let me find the right word before I can say something stupid and not get plotted on the internet. They should get their bikes together and their cars together and their RVs together and go to one meeting point at one time, get informed. Then I think a really great part would be if they start every client you work on, make clear that they go and say like, we should create the link and say, hey, go on to this link and say no to that bill. Say no to the Feinstein bill. Say no, you will not support it. Go and say no, we will not vote for you. So what basically happens is if you have a state where there's more tattooed people, or there's 20%, 25% of tattooed people, and they know that something is going to be put in place as a legislation that will prohibit that they can get the tattoo, then they should vote for the other party, regardless what that party is. Who gives a damn? I mean, just make a point. Go out there. When it's and I think that's really the part what should be done. And then the money will come. Then we can organize. We can do fundraising. We can do fundraising events. CTS is now a non-profit organization, so it's not for profit anymore. It's out, so we can use a platform and bring everybody together and use those funds then to rally. The challenge we have is we need to rally not in the state, we need to run in the country. So we need to create unified standards which we can implement in any state, right? Where everybody hopefully comes in and says, this is a bill what should go in. This is the standard for a tattoo artist. This is what they work, and we cannot be categorized into a cosmetic company. We can't be.
I seriously feel like, and I don't want to really throw this word out, but the unification of the pipe fitters or the Teamsters or all those people where government was trying to run them over back in the day, and they took up a rally with themselves, for their families, and for that stuff to fight the bigger problem. I don't really want to use the word unionize, but I will, just to keep it kind of simple. But the real thing that Sean and Aaron and Jeremy and Mario are talking about is the fact that we need to come together. I've been saying this on my podcast, circle the fucking wagons. You know what I mean? Because if not, man, everything that comes outside that is going to try to disrupt our lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. Tattooing is a lifestyle. I don't care if you're a tattooer, if you're a collector, if you just like the art and you don't have any tattoos. It's a lifestyle. This is what we're trying to protect.
I think a very big part, and you say this, and I can tell you, everybody forgets, I think, one simple issue. If we all know the big hitters right in this industry, which have a massive outreach on social media. Imagine if you get them together and they do a unified part would go out and let the people know. You would reach 100, 200, 300, 400 million people in less than a week. In less than a week. And that, but it has to be a unified message. And then when it becomes viral, it becomes a problem for the people which try to restrict it. I am not against regulations. I've always said that. I'm for regulations, but I'm not for draconian regulations. I'm not for regulations which we cannot fulfill. It's not working. Unfortunately, I'm too much a rebel. I'm a tattoo artist. That's what I am. Everything else is a side product, right? All the products, all the machines, all the color. That's a side product. It's my personal core what feels offended when they try to restrict that. So I think if, again, it goes back, public outreach. We need to inform the public at large what goes on. And when they understand it and the artists understand it, then people like Sean and I, with the CTS and the APT and any other organization, have a ground to stand on when we go to Washington. Otherwise, we don't.
Well, that's
I
the
think
thing. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that is a very important point there, and I think that with what you're saying about the outreach, you know, it's like once those, like you said, you bring together the table of people, then from that point you could kind of figure out like what would the approach be, you know, would it be that a document is written by a collection of artists that make sure that the information is true and correct and then put into the hands of these others to then be dispersed to the general public, you know, because it's those are the wheels that I think are really hard to get going, you know. And I think that a lot of people want to help, they just don't know how, you know. So I think that that's a big thing too, is like saying, you know, is figuring out a kind of a game plan quickly, like you were saying, between you guys that are very vested in tattooing, and then you know, getting it to where the trickle down can reach out, you know. And that's everybody, of course, wants to defend tattooing so that we can get back to tattooing and do what we love. But it's going to take proper documentation, like you were saying, to get the true and correct information out to people, to warn them of what's coming, and so that people can be ready. And then kind of, you know, I think it would be good to, you know, to include in there on what people could do to help besides just spreading information. Because if a lot of people are informed, that's great, but what people can do beyond that point makes a big difference too. Like in our shop, we've been trying to tell every single client that comes in, hey, you know, go sign the petition for the EU. Even if they don't count American votes, it still shows that there's worldwide interest in it, you know. And what I heard back from a lot of clients was like, oh, I went to the website, it was confusing to change the language, and then once I got the language changed, you had to create a login, and then I had to go to and it was like too many steps. You know, people are so instantaneous now that they want a quick way to sign a petition and put their name on there and have it be it, you know. And so it's, if something like that could be created to where the general public, you know, with their 5-second interest can kind of keep that there to where they can sign it real quick and then move on, then I think it's safer for the defense of what's going to happen, you know.
The problem is that we always want to do as little as possible and achieve as much as possible, right? That's why I said
I know.
on the podcast, I said, like, you know, we maybe should do 1 million people march in Washington, and I promise you they're going to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure we will have no problems. We will have a festivity. We're all 6 feet apart, so we take the whole state over, and then basically go from there. But I agree. I think really though, it is Europe made. This is on purpose. It's on purpose made difficult. Yeah. Not for Americans. It's made difficult for Europeans, because when the government puts something in place, they want to make it as difficult as possible that anything can be penetrated, right? And that's just me telling you as a European, that's just how they work, right? That's why they made a self-shooting fence in the East Germany, so they don't have to kill anybody. A machine does it, you know. It's just how they operate. I know it's a rough example, but that's what they do, right? They box it up so you can't penetrate, and then you try to make it happen, and only a big corporation with massive amount of money can penetrate it. And that's really the outlook what you guys have as a tattoo artist, or me as I have. It's like ultimately the tattoo pigment is going to go to $250 to $400 an ounce. That's where it is, because a cosmetic company is going to fill that void, and they're going to take that away. And then the $100 a year for 100,000 tattooers is nothing, right? Then everybody's going to scream, oh shit, we should have done it, we should have supported. So they have $10 million to go and lobby in Washington, D.C., because now we have to pay $400. And it's all their fault, because they didn't tell us strong enough. They didn't send the information. I just don't think that way, you know? I'm like, motherfucker, you have to do something, you know, by yourself. We have to do something. And I think a step up from the artists to come in to listen to it, because people like the APT or we or any other organization, or what they call corporate business, right? Like Intense or Starbright or Eternal, but I want to be political correct and count off 80 companies, you know, that I don't exclude anybody on this.
Right.
But what happens is, it is not about that. It's on the artist himself to speak to his fellow artists and say, we have to do this. We have to support. And when you talk to the next artist, tell him, hey, listen, we have to be part of it. And when everybody starts uniting, sooner or later we meet. Because sooner or later, the groups of unification are going to get bigger and they pump into another one. You know what I mean? And then it starts working. Yeah. It's an old saying. I don't know if you're Aaron. I mean, I'm pretty sure you all had it, right? Like when somebody came in my shop and they had a not so well tattooed, let's call it this way, tried to bash the artist, I always said like, hey, he did his best, right? So it's like, instead of going down the rabbit hole and destroying and talking shit about everybody who tries to do something good out there, you know, make it on your own to say, we need to do this. We need to do this. And if you say it often enough, I promise you, we will see each other in less than 3 months somewhere in the United States, and we're going to fix that.
Well, I think that that's such a great time for this. And one of the reasons why is because there are so many organizations and companies, APT, CTS, and let's just talk about the ink companies that can get the actual information out there. If we have a game plan and we can get the information out there, we can get the information out through tattoo supply companies, through ink companies, through needle companies, through clothing companies. There's so many ways to get the information out there. The first thing is to get that ball rolling, get CTS APT together. Let's figure out a great solution for this. You know, I don't know why I always think about National. National was such a big organization when I first came into the business, and they were such a driving force. And I love the fact that it was National Tattoo Supply. We were a nation of tattooers. This is a nation of tattooers. This is an art form that we have. I kind of feel like we have to get back to that point where we're all communicating. We're all saying our 2 cents. Nobody's taking offense to whether so-and-so uses this or so-and-so uses this. Who fucking cares, man? It's tattooing that's taken the fucking big hit. And I don't want to see that. Tattooing it's given me everything. And when you break it down like that, every one of us on this panel, everyone that we know, tattooing has given us everything that we have. Should we not give everything we have back to fucking tattooing and get our egos and the other shit out of our fucking way and really work for a unified tattoo group? That we're not busting on each other. Just like you said, man, he did the best job he could at that time, man. You know what I mean? 5 years from now, he's going to do a much better job. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. These are tattooed. Somebody sat in his chair. Somebody got a tattoo. Doesn't matter whether you get one from the best or get one from the worst. It's tattooing. It is a form of expression and art. And that's to me, that's what I feel is at stake here, is our lifestyle and the freedom to do whatever the fuck it is we want to do with what we were God given, whether it be our hands or feet or whatever the case may be. It's just my 2 cents.
Amen. You should just
Amen to that.
That's right here. you just did the final word. It's
Well, you know, man, I think that this has been great, man. And we can go ahead and close on that note. I would love to do this again in 3 weeks. And anybody who's watching this, please leave your comments below so that we can read them and we know what's going on. Also, as a tattooer, go check out APT, go check out CTS, go check out these. Don't just turn around, shut the fucking computer off and start talking shit that we're trying to take over the world. We're not, dude. The world's trying to take us over. That's what's fucking going on right now, dude. And it's a little bitty footstep. Mario said it the other day about we are being proactive where Europe is being reactive. Let's just be a little smarter, and then we can start this communication to where we can help our brothers abroad, because it's going to go to Japan. It's going to go to everywhere. If this thing gets out of hand, it's going to affect tattooing globally, and we cannot have that. And I have to thank you, Mario Barth, Sean Anderson, Aaron Bell, Jeremy Corns. Thank you for taking the time on a Friday night, setting your beers down, man, and having this conversation. I think we should do this again, man, once we've revisited and see what happens with the APT and CTS, and let's figure out how we can get that kind of thing going on so we can get a foundation. Because once the foundation for tattooing is built, we're good to go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The rest of it on. And man, I just got to say, man, that to be able to do this with you guys, man, I've been, you know, even as a tattooer who is, I got 28 years, June 4th, 2021. And, you know, y'all are my idols, man. I mean, you know, straight down to Jeremy Corns, dude. I swear to God, dude, I love that guy so much. Aaron Bell and I are such good friends. Mario, man, it's been such a pleasure working with you and talking with you. Sean, impeccable man with so much information. I thank you guys all for being here, and let's try to keep this conversation going and get these words out, man. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say at the tail end of this? Please do.
Yeah, I'd like, but you know, good to see everybody, and people ask, you know, what can be done. This is exactly it. Every time great minds get together, in the defense of the industry, that's when we do something real. And it was really great to see you guys. It's been a long time. I hope to see you in person sooner or later.
Cool. Aaron.
Yeah, so I guess for someone who's challenged regulation for so many years, I think I'm certainly open. What I'm kind of getting out of this is we get some people together and get some conversations going, but perhaps we could be looking at something like preemptive federal legislation. I don't know, but anyways, keep me posted, man, and I'll do what I can. So, and thanks for it's great chatting with you guys, Chris, and Chris, thanks for including me in the conversation.
Thank you, buddy. You know I love you. Jeremy Corns.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, thank you so much to all you guys. It's I mean, on behalf of tattooing outside of you guys, I think, you know, you guys, I just want to thank you guys for all of your countless hours that you guys put into this. I know I've seen Mario in hours of conversation lately over this. Sean is very well educated in this as well. Aaron has fought Washington State for a long time, you know, as Chris pulls everyone together and does everything. And I just want to thank you guys so much for that, because that's, you know, I know that you have to do it for yourself and for tattooing, you know, but you don't have to, if you know what I mean. It's it's something that people don't realize, I think takes a large portion of your life to fight for the, what we feel is sacred, and so it's thank you guys so much for all of your extra time. I think that tattooing greatly appreciates everything you guys do for it. So yeah, again, even Aaron, if we figured out even a way just to inform, tattooers in the Northwest more, that would be great. I would love to talk to you more about that kind of thing, and kind of hit, we, as it spreads out, more and more people will catch on to what's really going on here. And one thing everybody has to remember is that tattooing is much older than all of these laws and stuff. And it's been around since, before, predates so much language and industry and everything, that it's been around forever. And, if we do what's right, then we hope that it will be around forever to stay. So.
Yeah.
Well said, buddy. Well said. Mario, do you want to end this thing off?
Jesus, I have the last word on this.
You always get the last word, Mario.
All right, I'll make it short. Thank you, of course, Chris. Hey, listen, Chris, seriously, I know we had a whole restart with getting the time sketches together. I will definitely do it again anytime you guys want to. Anytime when there's an open conversation, I'm more than happy. Aaron and I go back a long time. We had some great times together. Love you, my man. You know that. Jeremy, I hope we see you somewhere. For me, the one thing, tattooing brought me the American dream, right? And I think every tattooer should have that same dream. So that's what we're fighting for.
Yeah, that's it.
So
thank you, Mario. Right. That was it.
Keep
right there.
Awesome, my friends.
Yeah.
I look forward to see you. Sean, let's get together wherever we're at. Let's have a dinner. Let's put this in motion, and we go from there.
Hey, let's keep trying to make tattooing fucking as great as it has been for as long as we can all remember and before, man. Peace and love, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon. All right, man. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.